CBSE Board, Class 11, History, Chapter 1, Part 2, Audio by Renee Matthew. So there was an increasing interest for metallic vessels, for earthen pots, for accessories made out of metal like copper and other metals dug out from the earth. So people started trading with it. It's not that they made everything for themselves and kept it to themselves. No, they started trading with it. And as a result of trade, villages and towns started growing. And movement of people was so common. And small communities of people also took place. They started growing up. People started making profit, and such changes took over. This took over several thousand years ago. And we can see that the transformation, the progression and all these things were taking place at a rapid pace. It's not that it took over for some period of time and then it stopped. Cities and villages and towns, everything was growing at a rapid pace. And all these things had a far-reaching consequence. And this can be termed as a revolution. Now also we are going through a revolution, a kind of changing phase. What is it? Software, technology, IT field, all these things have been gaining a lot of significance and importance, especially in this lockdown, right? All over the world. Some people are so happy with it. They are moving on and they are finding different forms of teaching or working and all these things, especially students and teachers. But there is a group of people who are not ready to cope up with it because of several factors and reasons. So, whenever we take a particular incident or change or any kind of action in the history, it has got far-reaching consequence. There will be contrasting themes in history. For example, some people saw it as a boon and the others saw it as a bane. And there were some societies which included farming communities, pastoral people and all that. All these things developed, and hunter-gatherers as well as city dwellers also started forming and coming up. Now look at this particular slide. There are two forms of evolution or progress which takes place for a particular incident or thing. Historical progress, geographical progress. So, look at the vehicle here, the car, the evolution of the car over the centuries. In the 18th century, it was steam vehicle. Then we saw the formation or the development of combustion vehicle, then gasoline or diesel vehicle, and then the electrical vehicle in the present century. So this gives a kind of detailing on the structure, the evolution of the engine, the model, and all these things are involved in the historical process. Okay. Now, when you look at the geographical development, the topic that I have taken here is Human Development Index. It is like taking note of the geographical locations. Look at all the different countries given here with reference to the Human Development Index, expectancy, birth expectancy, years of schooling, mean years of schooling, and all these gross national income, everything is given here. So that is geographical evolution or geographical statistics. But this is the historical evolution or development. So this particular point is important for you to understand any aspect in history. Timeline. How do you use a timeline and what is the importance of a timeline? History, the subject history itself has a lot of significance. Even when you study, it is good if you can make use of a timeline. And timeline is not just particular to history, it is particular to any subject. And what is the use of a timeline? It records the major processes and events in world history. For example, process through which ordinary men and women have shaped history, how it is shaped, especially events like war between kings. And some may just indicate the beginning of a process or when it reaches maturation. Beginning or we cannot say end. There is no end to anything. It is maturity. Okay. And historians constantly are revising the date. It is not that they write one date and keep it just like that in the cupboard. There are new ways of understanding and assessing and analyzing the old data. That is what the historians are constantly studying about. And then we have divided into geographical data and historical data. That is what I told you just now in the previous slide. Chronological overlap in historical process is also there. Chronology means sequence of events. So sometimes there will be overlap in the historical process. And some of the landmarks are also highlighted in this chapter with the themes that follow. That is why I told you that this particular chapter has got two themes. And whenever you see A star, it meant that you will find an illustration related to the date along the column. There are columns in your textbook. Alright? And there will be space. So these two are things that will help you to understand this particular text better. You will be learning about South Asian history more in general and Indian history in particular next year. So dates written here are for South Asian relevance, indicative of the developments in the subcontinent, because we are in Asia. So that is why they have given more importance to the South Asian history. I hope you understand and that you're able to comprehend with how to use a timeline or the importance of timeline. Now don't go so much into it if you haven't understand. It's okay. You will understand as we start the chapter. Now the interesting part starts from the beginning of the time. Are you ready? Okay, so before I start this chapter, you will come across this particular abbreviation, MYA. It is millions of years ago. It is before Christ. It is not even BC or AC. Did you understand? So it is millions of years ago where we cannot even think of the date or the number of years. It is difficult to calculate the number of years, and even if you calculate, it doesn't have any much relevance because it is many, many years ago. So, this chapter goes to the beginning of the age. Because we don't know the date at all, it means that from the time human beings were found, yes, we are going to that point when the first human-like person was found on this planet. That is 5.6 million years ago, written as MYA. The first human-like creatures appeared on the Earth's surface. Listen to this chapter like a story and you will not forget any of the points. Several forms of human beings emerged after that. It is not that when we first saw the first human, he was not in this shape. He was probably in this shape, right? And there was a lot of evolution taking place. And one form, when there was a shift from one form to another, the earlier form will get extinct. Did you understand? It is not that the earlier form is there. It becomes extinct. So human beings resembling us, that is modern humans, originated many years ago. And even before that, we have got this old form. And in the beginning, human beings got their food by scavenging and hunting. Okay, they were almost like animals, hunting and scavenging. And the way they ate, the way they behaved, all these things were very similar to animals. They also learned how to make stone tools later in life, because when there was a need to cut the animals, to tear the flesh of the animals and all, necessity made them invent all these things. Have you heard of the proverb, necessity is the mother of invention? Yes. So that is exactly applicable here. Because of the necessity to invent something, they started inventing things. There were other ways of obtaining food which was adopted later, though hunting and gathering continued. Even now we have got hunting and gathering procedures and processes. Today also, man is a hunter-gatherer in many parts of the world. And you must be wondering how the lifestyle of these people changed. Like, what is the difference between the present-day hunter-gatherer and the past hunter-gatherer? And how does the life of a hunter-gatherer helps us to understand the evolution of man? Right? You must be asking, hunting and gathering took place a lot of years ago. So how does this particular activity of hunting and gathering help you to understand the evolution of man? That is a great question that will be there in your mind. Let's see how it is going to help you. Discoveries of human fossils, stone tools, and cave paintings help us to understand early human history. So these are the three sources from which people were able to understand the evolution of human beings. For example, human fossils. We will look at the detail of each of this as we proceed with the chapter. Human fossils, stone tools, cave paintings. These are the three resources. Even when you start doing an assignment, teachers will ask you for the resource, right? So these are the resources for the archaeologists to study about the evolution of human history. And each of these discovery, I told you just now, has got a history of its own. It's very interesting to read this history. And in the beginning, you can understand that many scholars did not accept the discoveries and all that. They refused to accept that these fossils were the remains of early humans. They used to ask the archaeologist, how do you know that these are the remains of early humans? And studying the fossils is not easy. In spite of having so much of qualification in fossil specialization and all that, it is not very easy to read the fossils. They were very skeptical about the ability of early humans to make stone tools or paint. But that is not the truth. They were really confused and suspicious about how human beings could make stone tools or even paint. It was over a period of time that they understood that human beings really did painting and developed over stone tools. And it was a long period which made them or which took them to realize this fact or truth. The evidence for human evolution comes from fossils of species of humans which have become extinct. So I told you that so many forms of human beings became extinct, and you can understand about the evolution from the fossils. And fossils can be dated either through direct chemical analysis. How do you study from the fossils? So you need the help of a chemical analyst, fossil specialist, and all these people. So it is done through chemical analysis. You take the fossil, they used to take the fossil and they will make it undergo certain chemical procedures. They will understand the change in the color, the change, suppose they dip in some particular acid or some chemical, some color change will be there. Then they'll be able to understand that, okay, this is what happened. So we will go into detail of each of this in this chapter. Or the other procedure was to date the sediments, that is the remains in which they are buried. So when the fossils, some of the fossils were not clear. It is not that everything was so clear with high definition clarity. It is not like that. Some of the fossils were not clear. So what they did is they used to examine the sediments. If you dig something from the ground, you will get some sediments along with it. So they used to do some process and procedures to understand the sediments. Once fossils are dated, a sequence of human evolution can be worked out. Then after studying about these fossils, they will prepare a big chart or a document where they'll be able to retrace the development of human evolution. And when such discoveries were made 200 years ago, many scholars were finding it difficult to accept all these things because it was so bizarre and very weird. And they were not sure whether it really connected with the early forms of human beings. And this reluctance was mainly because of their belief in the Bible, in the Old Testament. Because in the Old Testament it is said that the world is created by God. So because of that, because of their immense belief in God, it was very difficult for the scientists and the scholars to directly accept that fossils really gave an insight to the paintings or the evolution of human beings. I hope you understand the process that is being carried about. And if you're not able to understand that particular point here in this particular slide, while I'm explaining the procedures for fossils, you'll be able to understand. But right now, make sure that chemical analysis was very important to study a particular fossil. Okay, that is one particular method, or from the sediments. These 2 points are very important. And why scholars refuse to really comprehend with each other to understand that fossils, stone tools, and cave paintings helped the archaeologists or the historians to understand the evolution of human beings. So that point is also very important. So take a look at all these points in this particular slide. And then specifically they have given so much of importance to fossil, stone and paint. So these three factors are elaborated in this particular slide.